let's back up, because what you're alluding to, I think, is that what we've been talking about really for the whole time is transition.
Yeah, exactly.
And the difficulties. Like, because I love football and I was very successful at it, I run into a lot of people who played in high school and loved it. Like, if their dream, like they would give their arm or leg to be able to play in college and keep the dream going. And I always think about how when I left the game, it wasn't necessarily forced, but you do age out. Like, it just sooner or later, even Tom Brady aged out at 45. Like, it's a young man's game. The day I retired, I was known for this thing that I had been able to do worldwide even. The next day, I remember waking up, and now that that's gone.
Now what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I've learned about transition that leads to rich loss, and how I describe it, that everyone, and even the high schooler, that the last day they play and it has to be put away, needs to recognize and treat it like a death, to mourn it and go through all the steps of mourning it and burying it, and actually having it as a place that you can keep referring to as almost like a grave site. Like, because otherwise you carry it around and it never you never transition. Transitioning is about actually moving from to, right? And so I'm really grateful. Roger Staubach, the poster on my wall, I got to know him. He became a friend. Like, it's insane.
Yeah. How cool is that?
And he famously transitioned, probably the most successful transition in history of the NFL.
What did he transition to?
The Staubach Company was a real estate business that he was hugely successful. And I remember asking him towards the end of my career, Roger, give me some tips. And he goes, run. I'm like, run? Run where? He goes, just run away. That was his tip. Because he said, the game will never leave you, but you need to leave it. You need to move on. And I thought that was just simple, but really important. And I tell people today, and I really want to write a book about transition.
Yeah.
Because everybody is constantly transitioning, whether they like it or not. Most of it forced, right? But if there's an authentic, vulnerable way to transition and bury and mourn, you can wake up the next day, realize I was great at something, and now I'm not even good at anything else. But you know what? I'm going to
learn and grow.
We're going to learn and grow. Hey.
I'm slow, but I'm getting there. I'm only twice as dumb as I was.
Useful.
What did mourning football look like to you? What did running from it look like? And what did mourning
It's funny.
look
So
like?
you lead to rich. So as we built this business and I was still playing, I was getting ready to run, and I was already running away from it even before it was over. I think there was a fear-based, which is not necessarily the best way to do this, that if I didn't run really fast, that it would somehow keep me from getting really clear of it all. And so I just started, we had that business, we were just running. And so he was a banker at Morgan Stanley. We took this idea that Warren and Larry had said, great, my buddy Jim Herman. And he said, as we went to go get financing for this business, we ran into Rich, who was a very successful banker at Morgan Stanley, but young, recognizing everything that's going on. He says, you need a CEO. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, we do. He says, I'll leave bank. You got to be in the late 90s in technology. Yeah. He's like, I'm walking out of Morgan Stanley, I'm going to be the CEO. And so we've been together ever since then. And so the transition you're talking about, as far as, I think because of that energy around great mentors, I mean, I'm very, very lucky. Like, I didn't have to do it raw. I didn't have to do it alone. I didn't have to, that would be super difficult. I had all this mentorship, all this modeling, all this example from Roger, from everybody. So to me, it was just, can you just go enact what is obvious to go do? And I really appreciate it, because the game never does leave you.
Yeah.
I traffic in memorabilia for our golf tournaments for Forever Young Foundation. And so we need constant signatures from jerseys from players and hockey players or Hollywood. And so to this day, you can't imagine how many signatures that I do that as part of the memorabilia company, and they pay me in stuff so we can use it for the tournaments. You know what I mean? If you'd told me in 2025, I'd still be signing my name on Steve Young jerseys or helmets, it blows the mind. But we're still trafficking in it because it funds the foundation, and we have great golf tournaments, and we make a lot of good things happen. So it's like a virtuous cycle that we got going. But
it seems also really fortunate. We were chatting just when we took a break briefly, and we won't get into the details of that, but about some of the former military kind of tier one operators who are
Yes.
friends of mine who run into a very similar challenge, right?
Yes.
They're the best of the best.
it is brutal.
They've been hugely invested in, not that dissimilar in some ways from top level professional athletes. And
100%.
then they go from being the best at what they do to question mark or feeling they're not good at anything. And that happens to gold medalists, or I should say just Olympians broadly.
It happens to the high schooler who never leaves football.
That's a great
You're
point.
talking about there's dramatic moments that are clear, like the SEAL team, who's the elite member, like that resonates with everybody. Like, oh my gosh, that would be hard.
You're right, though. It happens.
Yeah,
it happens in so many other ways.
But the transition pattern
Mhm.
is so common.